Okay, so that's what we're going to do today. We're going to do an overview of the contents of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, and we're going to cover the definition of Bhakti Rasamrita of Bhakti, Uttama Bhakti. The way that Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu is organized is into, of course, sections, right? But these sections are called oceans and waves. This is because Rupa Goswami is a poet. So he doesn't just call it part 1, part 2, chapter 1, chapter 2. He titled his book Sindhu, and Sindhu means an ocean. So within the ocean there's various seas or different sections of the ocean, and then within each ocean there's waves, and that's how he goes about referring to his part 1, part 2, part 3, part 4, and the various chapters in the book. His book has 4 oceans. You'd probably be better off calling them seas. 4 seas. Anyway, he has 4 oceans, and it starts clockwise from the Eastern Ocean. So in other words, the book has 4 divisions. The first one is called the Eastern Sea, the Eastern Ocean. The Southern Ocean is the second. The third is the Western Ocean. Fourth is the Northern Ocean. So that's 4 main divisions. The ocean of devotion, the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, the ocean of the nectar of bhakti, the ocean of the nectar of devotion, is divided into 4 sections, 4 seas: Eastern, Southern, Western, and Northern. Each one covers a different topic. The first division, the Eastern Sea, is going to cover something called Bhagavad Bhakti Bhed. Bheda means differentiations. So here in this first Eastern division, in the Eastern division of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Rupa Goswami is going to describe the different kinds of bhakti that there are, the different divisions of it, the different stages of it, especially different kinds of bhakti and different stages of bhakti. That's going to be discussed in the Eastern Sea. Then, in the Southern Ocean, the Southern Sea, the second division, he's going to discuss Bhagavad Bhakti Rasa, which is the rasa of bhakti, the deliciousness of bhakti, the flavor of bhakti. So, then in the next one, the Western Sea. So the Western Sea, the third division of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, that covers Mukhya Bhakti Rasa. See, the southern division was Bhakti Rasa, the deliciousness of bhakti, the flavor of bhakti. Now the next division, the third division, covers the Mukhya Bhakti Rasa, the main flavors of bhakti. And the fourth and final division of the book covers Gona Bhakti Rasa, the ancillary flavors. And you can see that the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu has 4 divisions. The first division of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu covers the divisions of bhakti, the different kinds of bhakti, different types and stages of bhakti. The second division covers the flavor or deliciousness of bhakti, the rasa of bhakti. And then the Western and the Northern go more into the Bhakti Rasa. They go deeper into the subject of Bhakti Rasa, so that the Western division is dedicated to exploring the main flavors of bhakti, the Mukhya Bhakti Rasa, and the Northern division, the final division, is dedicated to exploring the secondary or ancillary Gona Bhakti Rasa. So those are the 4 major sections: Eastern, Southern, Western, and Northern, right? But within each section there's also subdivisions. It's like if you take a regular book, a book written these days may have like a part 1, and then within part 1 there'll be chapter 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then there'll be a part 2, maybe again starting with chapter 1, 2, 3, 4, or maybe continuing the number, chapter 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 in part 2, and part 3, chapter 12, 13, 14. So it's like that in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. There's 4 parts, and in each part there's chapters. But it's just that Rupa Goswami is a poet, so he calls the 4 parts, the different seas in the ocean, the different parts of the ocean. And then with the chapters within each section, he calls waves within the ocean. Okay, so each ocean has different waves, and that's how the book is divided. Now let's look at what these waves are. The first wave in the Eastern Division, the first wave in the first section of the book, is called Samanya Bhakti. Samanya means like a general view, general consideration, you might say an overview of Bhakti. So here he's not going to be speaking about any specific type of Bhakti or stage of Bhakti, but the general definitions and characters that apply to all the stages. So basically, in the first stage, the first wave, the first section of the first section, the first chapter of the first section of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu gets the definition of Bhakti itself and talks about Bhakti itself. Not in any specific stage, but overall, samanya, in total. The second wave covers sadhana bhakti, which is the practice of bhakti. That's one of the divisions, that's one of the stages of bhakti. And inside sadhana bhakti, there's all different kinds of stages, there's all different kinds of types, etc. Those are all covered in the second wave. The third wave of the Eastern Ocean is about bhava bhakti. Bhava bhakti means internalization or realization. When the bhakti is not a practice anymore, but it becomes real. It's not an emulation anymore of bhakti. It's now a real bhakti. It's not an emulation of love, it's real love. It's not something that you're just doing with your senses, it's something that's really become a part of you. Bhava bhakti, that's going to be defined and described and explored in the third wave of this Eastern Division. Then the fourth wave of the Eastern Division is called Prem Bhakti. As you probably could have guessed, you probably were able to predict that. Prem Bhakti, perfect love. So Bhava Bhakti is when the love becomes real, part of you, but it's still not fully perfect. And Prem Bhakti is when it's real and fully perfect. Now let's look at the Southern Division. Southern Division, which is called Bhagavad Bhakti Rasa, this division gets into what happens at Prema. It keeps going from the previous wave. The previous wave started by defining Bhakti. The previous section, the Eastern section, started by defining Bhakti and then talking about it in practice, and then how practice leads to realization or internalization, and then how that realized, internalized love finally becomes perfect at Prema Bhakti. Then the next section begins from there. This perfect love, Prema Bhakti, what is it like? What does it taste like? What does it feel like? What is it experienced? How is it experienced? That experience is called rasa. The rasa means the experience of the essential quality of something, the experience of a thing's flavor, but not just like flavor that you taste with your mouth, but flavor in the sense of the whole entire experience of it. And each one of these 5 waves in the Southern Division is going to go into detail about each one of those 5 components. The first component is the vibhav, the cause of the experience. To give an example that everybody might be familiar with, let's say you have a child that you love. That you may have perfect love for that child, Prem Bhakti, it might be totally fully developed. But even if it's fully developed, it may not be experienced all the time. You may not always taste it. For it to be tasted, there has to be conditions which cause the thing to be tasted, experienced. Now, you may have a beautiful apple pie, but that doesn't mean that you're always eating it. So similarly, you have a perfect kind of a love for a person, but it doesn't mean that you're always experiencing the bliss of it. When you're experiencing the bliss of it is when you're tasting it. That's the rasa. So in order to taste the bliss of it, there has to be a vibhav, which can be called a stimulant or a cause or a catalyst. So, for example, like seeing the child might be a cause that stimulates the feeling of love. That's the first, going to be explored fully in the first wave of the Southern Sea. The next one is Anubhav. These are the expressions of love that result from it being stimulated. Once the love is stimulated, then part of the experience of it is how you express it. So that's called Anubhav. You see your child, and then that feeling of love swells up, and then you express it somehow. Perhaps by saying, "Hey, come here," or perhaps by patting the child on the head or something. Some kind of an Anubhav expresses the love, and that's part of the ecstatic experience of the love. And that's covered in the second wave. And the third wave in the Southern Division is called Sattvika Bhav. Sattvika Bhav is a special kind of Anubhav. It's a special kind of expression. What's special about it is that it's automatic. It doesn't go through an intellectual process. It just comes directly out from the sattvika, which means from the soul, from the essence itself. It doesn't go through the intellect first. Here's an example. You love your child, you see your child, so you think, let me give him a hug. So that's an Anubhav. But then, because of seeing the child and the love coming up, not only do you think, let me give him a hug, but also tears come to the eyes. So the tears coming to the eyes wasn't something you thought about. It wasn't like you said, let me cry, or I should cry. It just happens. It's an automatic expression. That's a Sattvika Bhav. That's certainly part of the experience of love. Part of the experience of love is the feeling of tears coming down your face. Part of the experience of love is the embrace. Part of the experience of love is the person you love and the thing stimulating the love. Those are all part of the experience, or the rasa. Now the fourth wave in the Southern Division is Vyabhichari Bhav. These are things which come along with the affection, the emotions that come along with the affection. For example, you see your child, so that stimulates, that's the Vibhav, and then the expression is a hug, that's the Anubhav, and then you may have tears come out, that's a Sattvika Bhav. But then you may feel something, also some accompanying emotion, like you may feel anxiety, that it's the child's first day at school, and you're worried about how they'll walk to school and be safe and stuff like that. So that anxiety is an emotion which accompanies the love. So there's all kinds of different emotions, dozens of emotions, that can accompany the experience of love, ranging from happiness to sadness and all kinds of things. It's not just all rainbows and roses. Some of the experiences are anxieties and things like that. But it all accompanies the feeling of love and makes it this wonderful, rich, sophisticated thing that you experience and taste. So the fourth wave talks about those. Vyabhichari Bhavs, the accompanying emotions. And then finally the fifth wave, which I really don't know why Rupa Goswami made it the fifth wave and not the first wave. The fifth wave is the Sthayi Bhava, which is the fundamental affection itself. The fundamental affection is the thing which is stimulated and then expresses itself and has some emotions that come along with it. The fundamental affection, so in this, keeping with this example of a child, the fundamental affection there is a vatsalya rati, a feeling of parental protective affection for the child. That's one of the Sthayi Bhavs. Vatsalya rati is one of the Sthayi Bhavs. Dasya rati is one of the Sthayi Bhavs. You know the others probably, you've heard of them before. So these five main Sthayi Bhavas, or affections, they get stimulated by the Vibhav, and then expressed in Anubhav, and involuntarily, automatically expressed by Sattvika Bhavs, and they get accompanied by and enhanced by Vyabhichari Bhav emotions. That is rasa. That whole combined experience of those five things is rasa. So here in the Southern Ocean, Rupa Goswami systematically explains it. Systematically explains all these components and shows examples from Krishna Lila of each one. Then the Western and the Northern seas, we're going to cover all of this material in detail. But we're not going to cover the Western and the Northern seas in detail. That would be the first wave of the Western division, looking at the 5 components of Ras for the first Staibhav. The second wave of the Western division, looking at those 5 components for the second Staibhav. Then the third wave is looking at those components of Ras for the third Staibhav, Sakyarati. Then the Northern division just has 7 waves, because now it's going to look at these 5 components for the Gona Bhakti Ras, which are 7 in number. Gona Bhakti Ras, the Gona Ratis are Gonas. They qualify. Their guna means quality. They qualify the main Ras. But why are they not Vyabhichari Bhava? Because Vyabhichari Bhavas come and go. Gona Bhakti Ras stay. There's certain Gona Rasas that are appropriate for certain Mukhya Rasas, and that's going to be discussed in the Northern Ocean. To give you a quick example, one of the Gona Rasas is Hasya, or laughter. This Hasya Rasa would be appropriate to qualify and enhance friendship. It would be great for friendship. But it wouldn't be a good component for Shantaras, and it wouldn't be a good component for Dasiras, servitorship, in most cases. So Rupa Goswami is going to analyze how the 7 secondary rasas fit in with the 5 primary rasas. Does that in the Northern Sea. We will talk about this concept of Mukhya rasas and Gona rasas. We will talk about that in detail. But we won't go into the Western and Northern Seas looking at all the examples of them. That's the only thing. So basically what you see in front of you now, all these waves, is what we're going to cover in this class in pretty elaborate detail. Okay, so you have any questions up at this point? There's a big difference. The subtle differences between the Anubhavas and the Sattvika Bhavas. There's a huge difference between the Sattvika Bhavas and the Vyabhichari Bhavas. The two, Anubhav and Sattvika Bhav, are expressions. How you express your love. The Vyabhichari is not an expression, but it's a feeling. So for example, you feel nervous. Like if a girl loves a boy and then she hears that the boy's coming this way, then she's going to feel anxiety. The news that he's coming this way is the stimulant, it's the Vibhav, right? And then the feeling of nervousness is the Vyabhichari Bhav. It's not an expression, it's a feeling. Now, she may express herself in one of two ways. A Sattvika Bhav is an expression that she doesn't think about. It just happens automatically. Like she may start to sweat, get very nervous and start to sweat. Or she may just become stunned for a minute, like, huh. So those are things that she didn't plan out or think they don't have any intelligence involved. They just come. That's a Sattvika Bhav. An Anubhav is also an expression, but it's an expression that's thought. There's some thought involved. So for example, she might think, let me find a mirror and check my hair. So that looking at her hair, checking her hair, combing her hair, that's an Anubhav. She's expressing, the emotion is expressing itself through her intelligence. The difference between that and a Sattvika Bhav is the Sattvika Bhav is like sweat coming out or feeling stunned. It's not something you think about or will to happen, it just happens. And then a Vyabhichari Bhav is not an expression at all, it's a feeling. The rasa is permanent, but it's not always tasted. Hasya rati is permanent. Hasya ras is sometimes tasted, sometimes not. So the cowherd boys, they permanently have hasya rati and chivalry and other things annexed to that feeling of sakya ras. But it's not always tasted, of course. It's only tasted when it's stimulated. and then expressed. It's just a classical thing that's done. Even in astrology and all these other things, they always do it this way. You just start from the east and go clockwise. East is synonymous with the number 1. Pratama. The east is even called 1. It's because the sun rises there, so it's where things begin. So the east is always considered 1. And then it just goes clockwise because things should go clockwise to be auspicious. Rati is the basis of rasa. So the affection for somebody is the basis of experience of tasting love. But it becomes that experience of tasting love when it's combined with the other things. It's like the definition of topmost love. So here we go. Anya bilashita shunyam jnana karma dhyanavrtam anukulyena krishnanushilanam bhaktir uttama. Topmost love is the expression of affection towards Krishna without ulterior motive and unobstructed by worldly or spiritual pursuits. Let's analyze this. First of all, this is the definition of topmost love. And that's coming from the term bhakti. Uttama Bhakti. Bhakti means love, Uttama means topmost. So it's the topmost form of love. Rupa Goswami is not just defining bhakti. The book Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu is not just about bhakti, which could be for anyone. Matri Bhakti, Guru Bhakti, Putra Bhakti. You can have bhakti for your country. Right? But he's describing Uttama Bhakti. The Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu is about Uttama Bhakti, the topmost love, the topmost bhakti. So it doesn't mean that it's not about bhakti. It doesn't mean that it's not relevant to all forms of love. It is, as you've already seen. You can give examples of regular, ordinary love too, and you'll understand all forms of love and all kinds of loving relationships much better by understanding Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. But especially the book is directly about Uttama Bhakti, the topmost form of love. There's 2 components in this definition. First is the definition of love itself, or bhakti, and then later on he's going to qualify that to define not just bhakti but Uttama Bhakti, the topmost love. Okay, so in this part of the definition, the first word is anukulya. Okay, it means that love is, first of all, a feeling. So love is a feeling. What kind of feeling? A feeling of affection. Love is a feeling of affection. What is affection? Affection is anukul, means being inclined towards somebody. So affection means caring about somebody. Affection means caring that they are happy, caring that they're safe, caring that they're prosperous. So what is love? It's a feeling of wanting somebody to be happy. Now the next word, very important word, is anushilana. Love is not just a feeling, but it's also an action. It's not just a feeling, and it's also not just an action. Love is an action that expresses the affection. So the topmost love is the expression of affection. Love is the expression of affection. That's what love is. So now we know what love is, which is rare. Nobody in the world even knows what love is. So now we know what love is. Now let's talk about what topmost love is. Uttama Bhakti. It begins with the word Krishna. Topmost love is the expression of affection towards Krishna. Why Krishna? Because topmost love is going to be for the topmost beloved. The object of love is important to the quality of the love. If you love a jerk, so how long will you be able to feel inclined to the person, and how can you express it? It will be frustrated. The better the object of love, the better the quality that love can expand to. So Krishna is the topmost beloved. So one thing about topmost love is that it's for Krishna. But the two main commentators on the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, who are Jiva Goswami and subsequently Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, they make an extensive effort in their comments on this verse to explain that the word Krishna should not be taken in an exclusive sense. But Krishna, part of the reason why Krishna is the topmost beloved is because the concept is inclusive. Krishna is the root of our very being. That's one reason why Krishna is the topmost beloved. Because you can't love anybody more than you love yourself. The thing with Krishna is that Krishna is the ultimate root of the self. So he's the topmost beloved because with Krishna it's possible to love him more than the self, because he is the root of the self. He's the very supplier of the existence of the self. So he's not a different entity. He's this distinct entity, but not a different entity. So it's not like you find somebody to love. I find my next door neighbor to be so nice. What a nice lady. So I love her. But she's just your next door neighbor. She's not intrinsically connected to you. How deep can the love become? But even if you somehow wind up marrying this woman, how close can you ultimately become? There's a limit to it because you're two separate, distinct entities, and there's always a question of, you're not me. Well, one thing about Krishna is the root of everything. So that means he's the root of you. So there's not this problem. There's not this limit on how deep the love can go. And there's not this problem of selfishness anymore. Selfishness can absolutely disappear with Krishna. And Krishna not only is the root of us, but Krishna is the root of all beings. Aham sarvasya prabhavo. He's the root of all beings. So love of Krishna includes love of all beings. So Krishna is the one person that you can love that will also inspire love for everybody. In the Nectar of Devotion, Prabhupada says, the love is like a light, and light expands as it goes. As light progresses, the beam of light expands. And it tries to get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and include more and more people into it. And so love, as it progresses, it tries to become more and more and more inclusive. But he says love of Krishna is one switch that turns on every light bulb everywhere. By developing love of Krishna, you develop love for everybody. And this is actually an important metric or measuring rod for the progress of your actual love of Krishna, is to see how much you love people. Even the ones that are just like right there in the same room, getting in your space and smelling up your living environment. So topmost love, that's the first thing about topmost love, is it's for Krishna, the ultimate beloved. Another important thing about topmost love that distinguishes it from ordinary love is that it's anya bilashita shunyam. It's without ulterior motive. It doesn't mean that it's without motive. It means that the motive is not ulterior. There's motive, certainly. There must be motive, anukulya. There must be a desire to see somebody happy. But that's the only motive. The motive of love is simply to please and benefit the beloved, Krishna. pure love, true love, topmost love doesn't have another motive behind it. For example, in a restaurant, also the motive is to please the customer. But the ulterior motive is to be paid. So in a restaurant, there's love. They're feeding you. But it's not pure love, because they're only feeding you if you pay them. Topmost love is the expression of affection towards Krishna without ulterior motive and jnana karma dinavritam. And it's also unobstructed. Anavrita, unobstructed. Unobstructed by what? By worldly or spiritual pursuits. Worldly goals are called bhakti. It means a desire to enjoy something. And you obtain bhakti by karma. The important point is that bhakti has jnana and karma in it. It has its own jnana and its own karma in it. It has its own karma, anushilana. Anushilana means activity, means karma, action. Love has its own karma in it. The expressions are the karma of bhakti. It doesn't require some other karma. It doesn't have any other goal. The bhakti itself is pleasant. It doesn't require bhakti. It doesn't require some other kind of enjoyment. It's already delighted. So spiritual goals are mukti. Renunciation is not the way to express love. It doesn't mean that there wouldn't be renunciation with love. Let me give you a simple example. If I had before me a gummy bear and a Kit Kat bar, I would take the Kit Kat bar and renounce the gummy bear, because I love the Kit Kat bar more than the gummy bear. But in taking the Kit Kat bar, automatically I don't take the gummy bear. So the love or focus on one object automatically includes the renunciation of the thing which is not included in that object. It automatically includes it. There's no need to first destroy all the gummy bears in the world and then eat the Kit Kat. Or to first get rid of the gummy bear so that I can eat the Kit Kat. So there's no need to negate the non-beloved to achieve the beloved, to please the beloved. You just please the beloved. And by pleasing the beloved, automatically the non-beloved is negated. So there's no need for pursuit of renunciation in bhakti. It doesn't mean that bhakti doesn't have renunciation, but it happens automatically, easily, naturally, from itself. That's what the point is. Bhakti has its own jnana and karma which arise automatically from it. That it has its own jnana. It doesn't need jnana from any other pursuit. Love includes knowledge of the beloved and of the self and how the self can please the beloved. That's included within bhakti. It's not that bhakti is devoid of knowledge. Bhakti is not devoid of knowledge, but bhakti is not covered by the pursuit of knowledge. You don't have to first accomplish all the karmas or the worldly goals, and then you can do bhakti. Nor do you have to first accomplish all the jnana, achieve all the spiritual goals, and then you can do bhakti. When I become liberated, then I can do bhakti. Or when I become fully satisfied with my material duties and my material enjoyment, then I can focus on Krishna. It's not necessary. Focus on Krishna will automatically bring about the fulfillment of all the material things and the fulfillment of all the spiritual knowledge. It's not reliant. Uttama Bhakti is not reliant on any other process. This is the definition of Uttama Bhakti. Topmost love is the expression of affection towards Krishna without ulterior motive and unobstructed by worldly or spiritual pursuits. We love somebody because we love them. We love somebody because they're beautiful to us. We find them beautiful. So we love Krishna because we find him to be beautiful. Not because he's Param Brahma, but because he's Param Brahma, this love is eternal and infinite and has no and no limitation. There's no reason. Love is beyond reason. The cause of love is simply beauty. Love and beauty are. Love is just a spontaneous reaction to beauty, and beauty is just the experience of love. So people who love other people, they have some sort of bhakti. And it may come gradually closer and closer to Uttama Bhakti. If it's also unmotivated, anyabhilashita, then it can also become a type of Uttama Bhakti. But until the love is focused on the ultimate beloved, it's not the ultimate love. So there's different grades of love. There's impure love, there's pure love, and then there's topmost love. So if you take the word Krishna out of the equation, you could still get pure love. Bhakti would just be the expression, love would be the expression of affection. Pure love would be the expression of affection without an ulterior motive or any diversion. And then ultimate love, topmost love, is when that expression of affection without ulterior motive finds the ultimate lovable entity. And part of the thing that makes that entity the ultimate lovable entity is that love of that entity includes love of everybody.